Hi, class. We're getting ready to start chapter 6, where we're going to talk about the socio-emotional development in early childhood. And we're starting with a section about emotional and personality development. So when you get into this age group, and we're talking ages 3 to 5, we really start to look at how kids develop their sense of who they really are. They start to differentiate, they start to really see personality within themselves and with others. So when we start talking about this, we have to really look at Erik Erikson's 8 developmental stages. And this particular age group, they're looking at the stage of initiative versus guilt. So kids are starting to really understand that they make things happen on their own. They are taking the initiative to go out and do things, explore things, become things, create things. The opposite of this, though, is that they can tend to develop more guilt. So you look at things like failure and children trying something new and failing at that. Now they realize that they're the cause of that failure a lot of times. So they're just not able to do certain things, and they feel guilt over that because they know that they're the ones that are possibly causing the reasons why they are failing, as opposed to someone else failing them. You also have to look at self-understanding and how they understand others. So they're starting to see themselves in a more social context, being able to understand who they are as opposed to who other people are, and how those things compare. So first, they look at self-understanding, which is defined as the substance and content of our self-conceptions, our understanding of who we are. Self-recognition. What are our physical and material attributes? So at a younger age, kids are really looking at how they compare physically to other people. If you look on the sketch notes, I think there's two little people drawn on there, and one has pink hair. And so he says, well, I'm different than so and so because I have pink hair. And the other kid says, well, we're the same because we're the same height. So they don't necessarily look at emotional similarities or aspects of personality. They look at physically what is the same and what is different. And that develops and changes as they get closer to age 5. So when they get to about age 5, that's when they start looking at psychological traits. So a 4 or 5-year-old might say, I'm not scared, I'm always happy. So they're talking in terms of emotions rather than physical things. Now, these might not be accurate. We all know that nobody is always happy, but a child might see that because they a lot of times will speak in absolutes. Now, we also have to look at how kids understand others. And we go back to that idea of theory of mind. If you remember that, that example of the Sally and Anne problem, I think it's called, where Sally puts a toy in a blue box, and then and Anne sees that, and then Anne goes to the bathroom, and then Sally moves it to a different box. Where is Anne going to look for it? Well, if you have developed that theory of mind, then you know that Anne's going to look in the blue box because that's where she thinks it is. Theory of mind at this stage, children should all have achieved that. They should understand that other people are different and they see things differently. But they might also understand that other people have different psychological traits as well. When we talk about expressing emotions, and we look specifically at emotions, this is when children are developing what are called self-conscious emotions. Pride, shame, embarrassment, guilt. We can't have these emotions until we have some self-awareness. So until we understand who we are, and until we have that initiative and that understanding that we are in charge of ourselves and our own actions, we tend to not be able to feel things like pride, because if you don't feel pride in something, you don't do yourself. You may not be embarrassed of something that didn't happen specifically to you. And so to be able to feel those self-conscious emotions, you have to be in that developmental stage. Now, understanding emotions, this is something that is very important to parenting and helping your child to understand their own emotions, and to understand other people's emotions. One of the things that we see is how parents regulate emotions. So, parents generally fall into one of two categories, either emotion coaching or emotion dismissing. Um, Obviously, there's a little bit of both in every situation. I'm sure we've all been in a situation where you've noticed that, a parent is maybe that emotion dismissing, where you're just like, come on, just get over it, let's move on. But the emotion coaching approach is definitely more developmentally appropriate for children this age. So you want to monitor emotions, you want to talk through emotions, talk to children about how to deal effectively with them. I saw a video of a little girl, and she was crying, and she was doing these deep breaths, and she was probably 3 or 4 years old. And her mom said, "Hey, I see you're taking deep breaths. That's really good. That must mean you're upset about something. Can you tell me what you're upset about?" And I don't even remember what the little girl was upset about, but she had learned through her parents how to deal with being angry. We don't hit people when we're angry. We don't throw things when we're angry. These are better ways to deal with it. But if you just say, hey, suck it up, you're going to be fine, a child never learns how to deal with those emotions. And so it becomes really difficult for them as they grow older to continue to regulate their emotions and do socially appropriate things to cope with emotions that they might be feeling. Now, the rest of this chapter gets in a little bit to moral development, and I'm actually going to skip over that a little bit. The general idea of moral development is we don't really know what creates children to be morally responsible. A lot of times, there are some theories about, it's about, punishing amoral behavior and encouraging or reinforcing moral behavior. But a lot of times kids are just experimenting with what's okay and what's not. And moral development we'll get more into when we get into late and middle childhood. The same goes for gender. The section in here about gender, what influences a child's, basically their psychological gender differences. So what makes a girl get kind of adopt those stereotypical female characteristics versus males and those stereotypical male characteristics. But again, I think we're going to get better information later on. So we're going to move kind of past that. Tomorrow, we're going to talk about families and different parenting styles. And we've talked about that a little bit already when it came to infancy and the different parental roles. And what you're going to find is parental roles change at every developmental level. So we're going to get into that as well. So that's it for today. If you have any questions, let me know, and we will hopefully